the lovely Lynn, myself, Rex Sykes is with Barry's with us, Barry Selby. I'm sure we have others joining us as we go on the fly. But it would be interesting to do a show with just 4 people. That would be strange. It'd be the first time in a long time we've had so little people, right, Lynn?
Yeah, we actually today people are going to be popping in, and they're popping in. People are running late on meetings, so it's going to be an interesting, great show. So take it away, Scott.
Well, it's one of those nights. I almost slept through it. So I fell asleep on this sofa. I had a long day. I was training people, and my shout out to the great men and women of the Hialeah Police Department. You guys are awesome. It was great meeting you all today. And I always love standing in the front of a room and talking to a group of people and being the only one in the room without a gun on my hip. That's always a comfortable thing to do. So,
but you put them to sleep.
I'm very careful about the humor that I use in those groups. But we had a good time, and I want to thank them. And I was tired when I got home. I got a little sleepy, but I'm awake now, and everybody's here. And today we're going to talk about be curious, not critical. And when I first brought this up, Barry pointed out that this was like a scene from Ted Lasso, which is on Apple TV. And the Ted Lasso scene, I believe it was be curious, not judgmental. Mm-hmm. I think that's what they were saying, but it's the same concept. The reason I thought of this was I had the pleasure of DJing a party on Sunday, and it was 95 degrees outside with a heat index of 116 degrees. And I was outside DJing by a pool. There's like 100 people there, and they were all in the pool, and they were having a good time. I was dying. I was a puddle of sweat by the end. But there was a couple there that were being publicly scorned and ridiculed. People were giving them faces. People were kind of like, being a little bit rude to them. And this is a couple that I'd seen before because I DJ this place once a month. And there's a weight issue going on there where she's quite heavy. He's heavy too. He's also very introverted, a bit of a kind of a nerd, if you will. Very, and they obviously they don't have a ton of money or anything, but they just it was a very stereotypical kind of, people might look at it and say, oh my God, trailer trash or something like that. It was just very odd thing. And I was watching these people being ridiculed. And at first I stepped right into that. I stepped right in with everybody else. And I said, God, what an odd couple. What kind of an ugliness to it. And then as I watched them throughout the day, I realized those two were the only two at the party that were kind to everyone. They were the only two at this function that were completely engaged with each other. And I started to think about it. I said, these guys show up every month when I'm doing this gig. And every month they smile and they're polite and they're nice to everybody. And they get in the pool, this husband and wife who are so odd that everybody ridicules them. And they get in the pool and they talk to each other and they laugh with each other. And when I play music, they dance in the pool and they sing together. And they walked out of there, and I thought, all of this thing that I adopted from all the reactions around me and from my own prejudices by looking at this couple, and what I failed to recognize was they were the happiest people there. And by the time I left, I was jealous of these two. I was jealous. I wanted to be them. I wanted to have that. I wanted to have that kind of happiness that goes with being them. It was the coolest moment, and it was quite revealing that I too fell into that judgmental trap really fast. That I looked at them and I judged them from their appearance and I judged them for how they were acting, instead of really looking and saying, these are two people that are completely happy, completely respectful, just wonderful, wonderful people. And I was able to, thank God, I was able to have a few words with them before I left. I said, and I told them, thank you for coming out every month and supporting me. And they said, thank you for playing music that we love. And thank you for being here. It was the coolest moment. So it was a real life lesson for me. Sometimes I got to look at things and try to figure out, and I think I spend more time on this. Am I looking at this for what it really is, or am I looking at this from a place of judgment or a place of ridicule or a place of maybe public opinion, instead of really looking at things for how they are. And it was a lesson for me. And this couple they don't know I'm on the show. They don't know anything, they don't know me very well at all. But I want to send into the universe an apology for not celebrating how wonderful they really are, and how much I missed out on because I jumped into public opinion so quickly. So that's why I wanted this. Be curious, look at things differently, open yourself up, and recognize some of the things that we might kind of shun, ridicule, or judge. Maybe there's more to it than what we're seeing, and maybe we need to pay a little bit more attention. And I can only wish that everyone else at that party could have seen what I saw that day. Hopefully, maybe someday they will. But again, I don't want to fall into judging them either. It's their journey. So I'll just take my journey and I'll do with it as I will. I don't want to miss good opportunities because of quick judgment or being critical. That's why I brought this up. I thought we could all kind of share on this a little bit. Again, just part of my journey. So Kellen, thanks for joining us, darling.
How could you be so stupid?
You know what, Rex? That's kind of what I said to myself.
Tell me, I'm curious. How could you be so stupid?
Let me tell you how. Let me tell you how. Because
no, you don't have to. You don't have to.
Well, but
it's me. It's what did I miss from that? I don't care what anybody else thinks of me, and I don't care if anybody thinks that I missed out on what could have been like really enjoying something really cool. Now I don't have to miss out anymore, so it's really cool. Go ahead, Lynn.
Beautiful share. I'm sorry, I'm stepping on everybody, but a beautiful share. I mean, it really is, and obviously, I'm being a little bit facetious by being curious and critical, but but so many people do. So it's nice that two things. One is it's nice that you go, hey, I did this, and as a result, I missed out. How can I, get better at what I want to do? And then publicly, you say, well, I wanted to do a show about it because it's something that's important to me. So how do we stay open and how do we be curious? So it's just kudos to you.
Well,
thanks, brother.
It's funny that this is all happening now because I think this is where the road meets pavement for me because, being a former bodybuilder and not knowing. Oh, before I talk about that, Rex, do you see who we have on the screen here? Would you like to introduce
I do. It's a Dutch boy.
Would you introduce him real quick for me, please?
Oh, this is a wonderful guy. He is an expert in branding and just all around good stuff. He's amazing. He plays guitar. He's learning Dutch. He wants to move to Amsterdam. He's chewing some food, or he's chewing his cud. I don't know exactly. This is the amazing Mr. Paul McFarlane. Oh, and he's a screenwriter extraordinaire and all sorts of wonderful things. And he is the host of my clubhouse room in the morning.
So surprise, Rex. He was a surprise for you. Thank you, Paul.
My afternoons.
No, thank you for being here. And it's funny because I know you came late to the party, but you want to paraphrase real quick, Scott, and then I want to pick up from there real quick on just your judgment or whatever, because we have some late people coming to the party here, and Kellen didn't get the beginning of your show.
Well, without telling the story all over again, it's really about, be curious about things. Don't be critical about things. Don't place judgments before you find out what they're all about. I had an experience over the weekend. I was being critical of somebody because of the kind of falling along with the crowd instead of being curious. And then I found out what a wonderful thing I was missing out on by not getting to know certain people. And I'm blessed that I was able to figure that out because now I get to experience more things. But that's what we're really talking about is being curious, not critical. Think it for ourselves if no other way to say it. Think for yourselves. Don't fall into this crowd kind of mentality. That's what we're talking about.
And thank you, Scott. And I just want to say that I've always fallen into the fact that I've been able to see a lot of things from my first language being Spanish and going to a school that everybody spoke English and being segregated bilingual people. I didn't go in the bilingual. I was with all the English speaking people. And then just, knowing that I was better off not telling anybody I was Puerto Rican going through high school and all grammar school and all that stuff. And when 6th grade, they found out I was Puerto Rican, I was Chatai. So when I went to different schools, I learned never to say that, because that was a bad thing to do. And, and I mean, just all these different things. And then from being a bodybuilder and having a good shape to just gaining all this weight and not being able to lose it, and having this lipedema and things like that, I just know how people were mean to people that were overweight or had a condition. And so I picked up those habits. I was just as bad and guilty to shame people. And I think more than anything, what comes back is I was one of those mean people. I mean, I could see myself. I'd never said that to anybody, but I would think those things. I mean, that was the lens. I never would say or treat anybody like that. But in my mind is like, eat a salad, kind of thing. I just never, I would never say that out loud, but that's how I looked at it. I just felt like, oh, they're just not taking care of themselves, without realizing they're doing the best they can, or you don't know. Like you said, you don't know what's going on. You're being critical without knowing anything until you're put in that position. It's a humbling experience. And so I think a lot of times I like to hide because I'm shameful for my behavior towards people that were in that situation. It's a humbling experience when it happens to you. And so I think that's where my shame comes, because that's why when I call it out, like, yeah, I got the big booty, I got the big thighs, or when I call those things out, I'm not being funny. I heard it from everybody else. They'd say it on me, or I just heard how judgmental they were. And so, and I've also lost 100 pounds. And then I hear people say, oh my gosh, you look so good, because before you look so gross and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've been on both spectrums. And so, like you said, it's a humbling experience. And yet everybody's got to learn their lessons here and there. And, so I'm glad we're talking about this, because the point is it doesn't matter if it's weight, or it doesn't matter if it's what kind of business you do. It doesn't matter what anything is. We're always judging something. And Paul and I were kind of talking about that when we were talking the other day. And I don't know where everybody's going and what's going with the internet right now. So welcome back. And I think we lost somebody. Did we, or did we not?
No, we're good.
But anyways, anybody that wants to pick up from here, feel free.
I can be the devil's advocate, because that seems to be me all the time.
Go ahead, Kellyanne. I love you. Thank you for being here, sister.
I was not a judger without being curious. I was just following the pack. I was a lemming. I just went along with everybody and didn't voice my opinion or stand up for, or so. But until the last 2 years, when I actually it took me like till 2 years ago to have my say, because I just didn't want any kind of confrontation with anybody about anything, from what color our basketball uniforms could be to something highly political. I didn't have an opinion. And so I wasn't curious at all. I just went along. So the last 2 years, though, have been so eye-opening, because I've actually allowed myself to have that curiosity and think, no, I don't necessarily agree with that, or I'm all in, It's like, so.
Well, and isn't it nice to know that even if you have opinion, it's nice to say, Lynn, I don't agree that way, but I still love you, and still know that you're able to have that boundary with somebody and still respect them. I mean, those are the people I surround myself with,
That's how you find out who your true friends are. Yeah. You don't have to have their opinion. You don't have to follow like a lemming. You can say what you want. They can totally disagree with you 110%, but they're still going to talk to you and be your friend and support you. And I found I have to do the same thing, because there were some people I thought, oh, I'm not going there, but I still, I remained loyal to them and said, okay, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not necessarily agreeing with that right now, but I still love you. So yeah, these last 2 years have been they're eye-opening and amazing.
You're amazing, and I love you.
Oh, thank you.
I'd love to hear what Barry has to say about all this. Mr. Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to paraphrase that, because some of us don't have the Apple Apple thing, and I think Paul's going to show us something here too. But so go ahead.
Well, the thing for me was when you posted that in the
Look.
nice one.
He's got props.
The thing is that there are in the show, and I'm not going to do the show, but in the show there are these great little vignettes they have, these segments where they talk about certain principles, like one about the goldfish, another one which I love. But the thing about being curious, when you put that quote in the messenger, as soon as you said "be curious, not critical," what I heard in my head was what I saw in Ted Lasso, which is "be curious, not judgmental."
Right.
And that was a scene in the show, basically, where somebody who was the bully basically wanted to just like throw his weight around, and so he's just throwing darts, like just like looking so like nonchalant. And then Ted was like, threw some darts badly, and ended up basically having a challenge. The thing was, though, is that the whole point was what Ted was doing was such a beautiful play on showing how judgment works against people, as in the person who judges pays the price later on. And that was the biggest gift, because he said one of the things he said was that if you were curious, you would know that I had, you'd ask me, have I played darts before? And he said that from like when he was a kid till he was a teenager with his dad until his dad passed away. It's like all these things that he said, if you'd asked, you would have found out. And the thing is, we often don't ask questions. We're not curious enough to go, I'm curious about, why you look that way or what you do, not in a judgmental way, but in an intriguing way. We'll find out more information. I've had experience many times in my life where I made assumptions, same thing, about people based upon how they were acting. But when I found out what was driving it, I became very compassionate, because I noticed that people's attitude, respect, way of doing things are so messed up, not because they were bad people, but because the wiring they had put them there. And some of my clients I've had to work with that way too, because a lot of times, because one of the things we talk about in the work is the prejudices we carry. It's not going along with the crowd, it's just what we get raised with. I mean, racism is not born into us. No. It's imprinted by people. Right. So we get prejudices at a very young age sometimes because of the environment we're in. We don't realize that we're getting it until mid-20s, mid-30s, and we're judging people. We don't realize why we're doing it. But because at 3 years old, our dad and mum kept telling us that or showing us that when they talk to people. So a lot of this work is really the self-reflection to choose into what do we think about people around us? How do we look at them? Lots of room for growth for all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that really puts it into perspective, Barry, because it's like we're making we're basing our judgments and all of our thinking on what we see and how we perceive what we see, instead of saying, okay, this is my perspective, but what's really there, and asking questions and digging deeper and finding out more. So that I mean, it's like pulling up next to a car with a lot of rust and dents and dings and saying, I'm going to kick the shit out of this car without knowing what they actually have under the hood, right? I mean, we've got to be curious and dig a little deeper than just our own momentary perspective of what we have, what we see, and the filter we run it through.
Well, let me just add one
instead of what they really are showing.
A lot of working with clients, with a lot of women, is quite a few women carry the belief like all men are dogs or something, all men are this, all men are that, because they have some bad relationships. But they paint all of the population with the same brush. And that's a mistake that you can always see sometimes. We look at somebody, one person, and they become the model for everybody else, which is not accurate. So definitely be curious.
Well, that's true. And men are pigs. That's why I don't date them. All right. So
that's not why I heard, or what I heard.
I did not tell them, Scott. No.
All right.
Paul, we play a thing that if I move you underneath Scott here, you're next to talk. So you're it.
You're Paul Lynn in the center square, brother.
Ta-da!
Okay. All right. Well, let's look at judgment. Here. There's a slippery slope and a fine line between discernment and judgment. Mm-hmm. Discernment is, you can look at us as animals, humans, and potential divine. Animals discern for safety. And when we discern, we can be an animal too. And also we use our senses and to discern. Safety keeps us alive, right? But judgment is pretty uniquely human. It comes from sociological, cultural, religious, family imprinting, whether we ask for it or not. How do I know? Well, you're looking at probably one of the most obsessively curious people you'll ever meet. And my obsessive curiosity has brought me every good thing in the world.
I love that, Paul. We had a great conversation the other day, and I love it. And my friend Bob Ward says, men are pigs, men are babies, because I've been both. I have told my daughter that since day one.
Yeah, but see, that statement, though, is also very personal, not true for every man.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
That's true. That's true.
So Rex, what do you have to say?
Well, let me start with a little bit of a history. When I was a younger guy, I would go to the gym with a friend of mine, and we would look at these old farts trying to get in shape, or these fat people trying to get thinny and all that, and think, well, God, these people are losers. A few miles down the road, I look at these people now and go, wow, how cool. They're actually taking care of themselves. They're at the gym. So many other people aren't. They're trying to get in shape. Maybe they had, an injury or a health challenge or whatever, but they're dedicated to doing something for themselves. So sometimes we grow into change, or into difference of opinion. Building on what Paul had said, stereotyping is part of what the brain does. The brain, people know me as a neurolinguistic programmer, the law of attraction, Henry Napoleon Hill guy, but I'm really a learning specialist. My passion and my drive has always been to make things simple, easy, and available to people. And I do a whole lot of stuff on learning because that's what we are. I mean, the brain is a learning machine. And because we get educated the way we get educated, we get turned off to learning. And we don't like it. Some people do, but we don't like it the way we could. And children learn more through play and adventure and imaginatory kind of things, than they ever did in school, in formal education. And especially in the old days when they pick up a stick or a rock, or they, did something where they had to use their brain instead of, getting it all passively on a device. But learning is incredible because what the brain does is it works on a principle of least energy. It does the least amount of anything in order to survive and to thrive. And one of the things it does is stereotype. And stereotyping is beautiful. So what is stereotyping? Look at any personality test or template, whether it's Myers-Briggs or the DISC system or whatever it is. That's a stereotype. It's saying, here's a bunch of things that make up this type of person. Here's a bunch of things that make up, so that you can identify them quickly without having to go through all sorts of analysis and everything else. It's what the brain does. The judgment side of it is learned. The judgment side of it, I've always said, before humans were on the planet, things happened and they just happened. But when humans came along, they made, as Paul said, they make judgments. So we learn to hate, we learn to dislike, we learn all this, and it's passed on from family members or peers or whomever to be intolerant, and we give up curiosity. One of my personal quotes is, curiosity is a doorway to exploration and adventure. And if you're not curious as a child, what are you? You're either skeptical, which is okay. Be skeptical but open, but don't be cynical, because cynical means you're closed. It means you shut down and you don't take in any other information. You and I can learn more if we just open up and play and have fun. So for over 40 years, I've been saying, look, there's a way to learn and there's a way to change and transform. It's through play, and it's through delight, it's through curiosity, it's through attitude, it's through, all these different things. And people go, you're not being serious enough. We would dance and in the 80s, we would do dancing and singing and meditation and laughter. We'd have laughter meditation for an hour. And people go, this is frivolous. Not the participants, because they were transforming. It's people who would say, you're not taking the subject serious enough. And I go, I'm taking it lightly enough. And we would call it play shops, but nobody got that. They couldn't figure out what a play shop was, so we went back to saying, But a friend of mine kept play shops, and the idea is play, have fun, enjoy, delight, and stay open. And stay open because the alternative to being open is being closed, and being closed means you miss a hell of a lot. As you said, Scott, in the very beginning, had I not done what I did at that moment, I could have enjoyed it so much more. And people who are making judgments about this is good or this is bad or this is right or this is wrong or this is the wrong color or the wrong sex or the wrong gender or the wrong politics are limiting themselves in so many ways, and they don't even know it. and they may prefer it, and they will stand their ground over it and defend their right to be stupid, but it is what it is. So
and part of the part, I love that. I love that. Part of that's absolute thinking too, is if they look odd, then they must be odd completely through and through. And it's like, or if this is damaged, then the whole thing is damaged, which is really horrible thinking. And it's something that I fight against all the time. And you made another point about the playing and stuff. Take any teacher who wins teacher of the year or teacher of the semester. And they always have the local news come in and say, hey, Miss Robinson is teacher of the year. And they show her classroom, and it's never a sterile classroom. It's always got shit hanging from the ceilings, and there's monkeys, and there's all these like some rodents or that they keep, and the class takes care of them, and they've got bright colors, and everything is almost chaos. And it's like, why is she a great teacher when everybody else has these nice, neat classrooms where the kids sit down, shut up, and learn? It's because they don't buy into that. They allow people to be expressive and learn the way they need to learn. I was just thinking of that when you were talking, Rex.
Well, I would add that learning is about drawing from the person, not putting something into the person.
Right.
I have something.
Well, no, but our traditional education system around the world, and particularly in the U.S., is we're going to teach you these things. You're going to memorize these things. You're then going to regurgitate those things. And if you regurgitate them correctly, then we'll say you passed. And you don't have to know anything. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is have a good memory or know how to take an exam, which some people do. They don't learn anything, and they're just good at taking exams. Other people learn all of it and are crappy taking exams, and so they don't get graded. But the educational system is not designed in this country to extract the best from the person, but to get them all to be nice little citizens and to toe the line and to follow the velvet rope to the trains. It's really nothing more than that.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Cotter. And Horseshack has something.
Oh my! I could talk on this the whole rest of our time. So, I was a volunteer art
teacher.
She
is friends with Steve Rizzo. Okay,
K through 5. Okay, so I taught kindergarten through 5th grade. Volunteer, taught art, and I knew exactly when the teacher's opinion started affecting the kids, exactly when they stopped allowing themselves to be creative. They were worried about what other people thought. K through 3rd grade, they were fearless. They didn't care. They didn't look at other people's, little, like we do all kinds of different projects. They wouldn't look at their neighbors and see what they were doing. They were just so intense into, but 4th, 5th is when they completely lost. They lost their opinions. It was so sad to see. And I need to tell you a little story about my daughter. She got in trouble in kindergarten because my degree is actually in 3-dimensional studio art and art history. So I was artsy, and every, from the time she could walk and talk to the time she went to school, we painted with our feet. We did all the crazy art projects. I got called into the office because she couldn't color in between the lines because I'd never given her a coloring book. I made her draw her drawing. When I got called in for that, I was like, I'm not Mother of the Year anymore. I thought I was doing such a great job. I was like, holy crap. But you know what? She is a very productive, adult now. She's 20 years old. And you know what? The kids that I taught art, this is the last thing I'm going to say. I've got 100 other things I could say, but
we'll be back to you too, I promise.
The kids that I taught art to are in college now, and they'll message me on Facebook and talk about Picasso or Matisse or whoever the lesson that I taught them about was. And I would send them a question and say, do you remember the Pythagorean theorem? And they're like, no way. So the art in the child is the thing that they remember, and I love that. It makes my heart when they tell me.
You mentioned the big change in 4th and 5th grade. Now you know why South Park, they are 4th graders.
Yes, exactly.
Love it. Yeah.
But I just want to show the whole creativity thing. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I did it for 14 years. So most of the kids I followed from preschool all the way through till 5th grade. I mean, obviously didn't need volunteers in high school, but I saw, and you know what, and this is really sad, I predicted the ones that were going to be in juvie. And they were. Wow. But I went and I helped them. I went and because I was still living in California at the time, but I knew who was going to be a doctor, and I think Bryce is going to be president someday. Just so you know.
And it was said right here on this show.
Here, Bryce, I predicted you're going to be president.
Okay.
So
he's going to UC Davis right now, which is like the top school in California.
What happened?
That's Max. Sorry.
Oh, Max is very active.
What do you got, Barry?
Well, just actually to take on from what Rex said, because coming from England, our education system in America has got a lot copied from England, and I don't even know what came before there. But the truth is, most of what was built into the school system back in the turn of the century, actually last century now, was designed for one purpose. It was designed to produce workers for the factories, for the production lines, because the schools, all the chairs and tables were in rows like production lines. They were basically doing things by rote. Everything that was taught in school, like Rex was saying, because academia is to stick stuff in, education is to pull stuff out, and education comes from, I think, Latin. It says to bring forth from within. But most schools are not built to be educational emporiums. They're meant to be academic input systems. And so it's absolutely true what Rex said. The school system wasn't designed for us to be free-thinking, creative people. It was to indoctrinate, which is why, unfortunately, people aren't curious as much now getting back to the topic. They've been trained to be negatively critical about things that don't fit the paradigm they're into now. It's the challenge is that a lot of kids don't get the input like Kellen gives them, where they can see things through a different lens and see life from a more expansive perspective. I'm grateful now, but I've had many years past school where I figured out a lot more stuff to learn from than I did when I was in school, because I was, just one of the robots in school.
I'm always thinking the bright side of things, and I'm just thinking of one right now. Thank God they don't make us go back to school when we're older.
No, it'd be fun. I'd turn things up.
Barry, do you know what the schools in Finland did?
No, I think I've heard, but please do.
It doesn't take long, but basically you go back a few years and the worst results of schools, Finland was really low. I mean, like USA low, and they actually did something about it. And in the grade schools there, they got rid of homework. They made sure the kids had an hour and a half of really good food, and they let them play outside as much as they wanted. And the results went.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about how those who are older grew up. You went to school about halfway through the morning, you took a recess, then you had lunch, then you had a recess after lunch, then halfway through the afternoon you had a recess, and then you went home and you played. And at the time the food was normal food. It wasn't all the fast food kind of crap that we've done. And so what have they done? Nowadays, whether you're in grade school or high school, they're getting rid of gym class. Like you can go to high school now and you get a quarter of gym class, but not every day throughout the time that you're in school. So one semester you get gym. They take away your recess and they give you shitty food and expect you to do well. And if you get up and move and fidget because you're filled with sugar or salt or whatever's going on, they go, well, let's give them drugs, and now we'll medicate them because they've got an issue. The issues are created by the system, not from the children. Yeah. I want to add something though. When I started my work, I did a lot of work with placebo effect, and at the time, people say, "Oh, well, that's stupid. Placebo effect doesn't mean anything. It's just and who criticized it? It was mostly the experts. They would go, "Oh, the placebo effect is nothing." Now we know that the placebo effect really is a powerful effect. Not the placebo, the little pill or the amulet. That's something, but the effect, the ability to heal. Because you think something's going to help you, or the ability to not heal because you don't think something's going to help you, is a very powerful effect. It's based on your beliefs and your attitude. And your attitude is everything. Learning is the same way. If you think about kids chasing butterflies or looking at caterpillars or being captivated, they're fascinated, they're curious, they're why? And then we train that out of them. We put them in the schools. Nowadays, what do we have? We have something that's of benefit. We've got a phone or a computer, and we got this thing called Google. So you can go, oh, wow, how many people does it take to do this? And you can look it up on Google. Okay, I'm done. You don't have to, in the old days, you had to go to the library, you had to go to the card catalog, you had to do some research, you had to do stuff. You go out and got a bunch of different books, and you looked it up. Now you get your answer in a few seconds, and the answer is never the answer. I mean, you say, what's the capital of Arizona? You go, boom, that's the answer. You don't have to go anywhere. You're done. The whole point of learning and growing and developing as a human being is to be captivated, to be captured by things. Those people who get really, really successful, and I don't just mean fame, they could be, on a rock somewhere on an island and be just completely absorbed by, birds or sounds or playing the violin or doing something. They get captivated. They have a passion. They have an enthusiasm. They're thrilled and they want to learn more. There are people who are octogenarian, septuagenarian, 90-year-old people who are going, I'm getting better at this violin every day, because they understand that it's not about having been there and done that and getting an answer and getting some kind of facts and figures and regurgitating it. It's about being captured by what they love and what drives them. And all of us, even those with neurological issues and only a half a hemisphere and all that kind of stuff, are exquisite expert learners. This is what our brains are designed to do. And it's kind of like, remember the old thing, here's your brain and then here's your brain on drugs. Well, it's kind of like the kids that we produce today and the adults that we produce are your brains on drugs. There's a learner who, instead of being where it's been drawn out, we're taught to work in the factory. As I said, you follow the rope to the trains. It's a formula for not making living, thriving, wonderful people, but to make people citizens, workers, or whatever. And sadly, we are paying the price as a society. We are paying the price of not extracting the very best from all of the people around us.
The best,
it's this forced critical thinking that they choose. It's they force this. It's yes or no, it's true or false, it's right or it's wrong. And there's nothing in between. They're teaching you, there's one answer. 2 and 2 is 4. That's one answer. And if you get it wrong, you're wrong. And if you get it right, you're right. And that's it. That's the extent of knowledge. You're either wrong or you're right. And they're not teaching kids about Schrodinger's cat, about possibility exists beyond right or wrong, good or bad, live or dead. It could be anything, and it could be all things existing all at once, and it could be all that. They would never teach that in high school because they don't want people thinking that way. They don't want people out there thinking that there's possibility in everything, and that's what we've lost. We've lost this wonderment, the wonderment that used to be, wow, what can the world be? And what, let me try a different color. Let me use my crayon and make the sky green and make the grass blue. And let me do that, because if you do that now, the teachers say you need to go and see the psychiatrist because obviously something's wrong with you and there's something wrong.
But video games let you do that. Kids do that in Fortnite all the time.
They cut out the journey. You get from A to Z. You have the questions.
Sort of. But I mean,
but they have cut out
mental to be curious.
C, D, E, F, G, H, I, which is the most important part. The journey to me was getting to Z.
Well, I'm saying the idea where you can kind of like play with things, change things, is being expressed in certain ways now. You may not be comfortable with it. That's what it is. Because just because we didn't grow up with it. Remember, we grew up with something our parents didn't understand, their parents didn't. But I wanted to tell my short little story that I know Rex knows this. My favorite student story when Osho was a little kid. And he was in the classroom. It wasn't called Osho then, of course. And he's staring out the window looking at this beautiful tree. And the teacher says, "You're not paying attention." And he said, "I am paying attention to this beautiful tree. And if what you were saying was half as beautiful as that, I might pay attention to you." I could show you. I'm not going to do it, but just trust me, I could. My mother saved all of my things. And in first grade, I had tests where I would give the answer with a note, turn over on the back. I'd say, "I know you think this is the answer, but this is the real answer."
Oh, I love it.
I got to share with you a quick story, and then I'm going to shut up and let everybody do their thoughts. But my son, I got a phone call, and they said, "Mr. Jones, come down to the school, bring a new shirt for your son." So I assumed my son ripped his shirt, and I had an office in my house at the time, and I lived maybe 10 blocks from the school. So it was not a big deal for me to grab a shirt. I go down to the school, I go into the office, and my son's standing there in the office, and he's wearing his favorite sweatshirt. It's a Ramones sweatshirt. Now, first of all, I'm proud of my son because he was, instead of listening to what everybody else was listening to, he was listening to the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and I loved it, right? So he's wearing a Ramones sweatshirt that says, "Hey ho, let's go," and it had the Ramones on there. And they said it's not appropriate for him to wear that sweatshirt. And I said, "What? No rock and roll stuff? Is that what you're saying?" They go, "No, it's got the word ho on it." I said, "Wait a minute. The song is, hey ho, let's go." It's what if it was Santa Claus and it said ho ho ho? Would he have to take that off? It's a sound. It's just it's a thing. It's a call. It's not about whores. It's ho, hey ho.
No,
and I argued
what they were thinking.
Yeah, it's what they were thinking. And so I told them they were all idiots. And I took my son's sweatshirt and I gave him a t-shirt that, for him to wear. And I went home. True story. 2 days later, I get a call from the office. "Mr. Jones, you need to come down here." I hung up the phone. I didn't even listen to what they were saying. I drove down to the school. I parked on the grass. I was so mad. I stormed into the school, ran down the hallway, bust open the principal's doors, the office doors, and I look, and there's my son standing there with a belt buckle about that big that said "fuck you" on it. I said, "Son, you're on your own." I turned around and I left. It's a true story.
This might be a shameless plug for Rex, but seriously, he does give a free course with his book, and it really brings down to the basics, and this topic really brings it full circle to the you don't know what you don't know. And he talks about we should be like childlike and stuff like that. And that I watched it once and it sticks to me like glue. And you should go to rexsykes.com and check that out. And
like I always said, one of the worst things you can tell an adult is, Rex,
you
what?
Don't know.
One of the worst things you can say to an adult is, "Stop acting like a child."
Yeah. We should be like a child. Act like a child.
Got that down to an art form.
Don't ever grow up. It's a trick, for sure. So Scott, go ahead and take it around.
I love that. Thanks for that, Paul. Well, I mean, me being a child it's all about my music and my art and all the other stuff I do, and it's because it releases my inner child, and not my inner child like, oh, let's dig deep and go through. My inner child is I still like to play. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to play. I like to laugh. I like to have a good time, and screw it. But back to the topic. Let's wrap this up. Please do.
Sure, first off, you gave me an idea for a sweatshirt that says, "Hey, whores, let's go."
Why?
And what does heave ho mean? That's what happens when you eat. What does heave ho mean?
Right.
What happens when you eat too much ho?
There you go.
Oh my God.
So I was talking about the placebo, and that the experts are the ones who were poo-pooing the idea of the placebo, and now we know that placebo is truly valuable. But we've been talking about play and building new neural pathways, and about how you can learn more as a child than you can in traditional education, and so that you need to have physical activity and music and play and dance and all these kinds of things to wire stuff in. Now the experts are beginning to say, yeah, it takes 400 repetitions in order to neural wire something in, or 10,000 hours to be an expert. Unless, of course, you play. Then it's quicker and faster and easier. And so the more delightful you make things, especially when it comes to learning, the more it's going to stay with people, and they're going to love the process. If you make the process arduous, right? So make it light, make it lively, make it enjoyable. Attitude is the number one predictor for success in all areas of your life. What's one of the best attitudes to have? Curiosity, captivation, the ability to be captivated and to be enthused and to be fascinated and to be open and to be available to what the world around you, including what's inside yourself, is to be expressed. And so few people, because they can't codify that. But what Paul was saying about Finland, if we did that here, you would see a substantial change in the ability of our children to go. But guess what? They're never going to do it. I mean, well, let's say they're never going to do it until they actually do it.
Yeah.
Right?
We all talked about our kids, so I gotta be in that pool too. It's just like, you were talking about making it fun. My daughter, when she was in kindergarten, she learned her ABCs by singing it, right? Literally, they wanted to flunk her because she said at the end of her ABCs, "Now I know my ABCs." I kid you not. They wanted to flunk her because she added that at the end. So, rest my case.
Now I know my ABCs. Screw you, go to hell and leave me alone.
Yeah.
That's what the belt buckle's for. That's what the belt buckle's for.
You should have said, "Wow, he learns well from you guys. He's got his own response to what you've been."
He does. He does.
So let's go with the beautiful Kellen Ann.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow off of what Rex said, make it fun. And the perfect example was the example I gave you guys. They could remember lessons from Matisse and from Picasso, but they don't remember the Pythagorean theorem. So giving them the opportunity to be curious was the success that I felt in my lessons.
See, I'm an optimist. I believe someone could teach the Pythagorean theorem and make it hilarious.
Well, you could, yes. Absolutely. You can add flavor to it.
But they don't remember it.
Right. Give me that chance.
You're on the floor there, Paul. Oh, go ahead.
Paul, go ahead. What do you, this is a chance to wrap up. Give yourself like a couple minutes to tell us what you're thinking. Or not. You can just stand there.
Okay, honestly.
And thank you, Kellen.
Exactly. I'm thinking, Scott, I hope your son starts listening to music you hate. Then you can grow. Then you can grow.
He did. I actually caught him listening to Taylor Swift one time. It devastated me. All right.
Very cool person in my estimation. Did you hear what she did with her crew?
No.
Okay, you know how to use the internet, don't you?
Yeah.
What's the internet?
That's it. Taylor Swift crew. That's what I'm thinking.
It's the interwebs, isn't it?
Is it the dark web?
It's the tubes. It's the tubes.
Go, Paul. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What?
Say what she did.
She gave them millions of dollars. She makes a lot of money, and she wanted to set an example for valuing the people that really make things happen. And she just showered them with cash.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Everyone here doesn't know it means that everyone here should know that.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool. That is cool. It's good to know somebody's out there doing things like that. I'm just not a fan of her.
Ask your son if he knows that. Have a conversation about Taylor Swift. And he said, "Yeah, I did. I'm glad you know her." So I didn't know that. Wow, Dad.
All righty then.
Anyway.
Paul, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you.
Yep. Paul, appreciate your visit, brother. So let's continue around with our thoughts on being curious, not critical. Barry.
A couple of things just to add to what was said earlier. First of all, you said about your son with his sweatshirt. The thing is, Hi-Ho actually came from the Seven Dwarfs, not from the Ramones originally. So if the score is antithetical to Disney, we got some problems there. Just to be
yeah, we do.
Well, that means they live in Florida. That's what that means.
That explains everything. Yes. The second thing is
hello ho.
I'm gonna call the popo ho.
Hi ho.
Hi ho.
Second thing is that if Ben Franklin was in school now, we'd never get a light bulb. You get my point? That's the thing, because the thing is, our kids don't learn to experiment, to make mistakes, to get clumsy, to get having do-overs. That's one of the biggest failings I think we have of anything in life. The other thing is, and I think you touched on this, Rex, too. There's a quote I remember hearing from one of the teachers, and it's been repeated many, many times, different teachers, about if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not learning, you're dying, as far as I'm concerned. So yes, being a lifelong learner is the joy of being on this planet. So if you're not taking in new information, reading new books, watching new stories, getting more educated, informed, and enlightened, you're wasting your time, frankly. So I'm very passionate about people becoming better at being better. And I'm in a coaching program now as a student because I ain't done yet. So I want to keep learning to be better at being myself. It's part of the fun of being alive. So school isn't out; it continues.
Yes. And remember, you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
First part of getting help is being helped by
isn't it Shouldn't we probably make it a little more okay not to know the answer? Shouldn't we make it a little more okay to not know things?
It's not about having the right
everybody's
answer,
so busy trying to impress
what
people.
you do to get it, that's important.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Journey.
Right,
The
exactly.
wrong answer, I mean, they have those things about the people who go in and they didn't know it could be solved, and they solved the thing on the on the board because they didn't know they couldn't do it. Everybody thinks that if I have this answer, I've got the answer, and that's why you don't have to go any further. That's why Google is a godsend and a detriment, because you don't go any further a lot of times.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, what do you do about a world where someone can say, this cannot be done? One person will say, oh, no. Another person say, screw you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So let me share a little bit of a story about my past. And I don't do that too often, but when I was a kid, first grade.
But you were a kid?
I still am. I should have said that. I used to draw. This will date me. I used to draw pictures of Mary Martin as Peter Pan and tell my parents to send them to her because I was her biggest fan from the Peter Pan musical on television at the time in the 50s and 60s. And so I go to school, and I had no memory for this, but I did what Harry Shakeman did. I drew a purple donkey, and the teacher called my mom in and said, look at this. And I was in the class, apparently like a first grader, and she goes, donkeys are brown, tore up my thing, and said, this is just horrible. He doesn't have, a sense of reality. I don't remember it, right? So all through first grade, I stopped drawing. I didn't like to go to school. I didn't remember this again. My mom asked me, like, when I was in high school, she said, do you remember first grade at all? I go, no. She goes, you remember how you used to throw up every morning and wouldn't go to school? She said, you hated it and this and but they would routinely kind of do this with me. I took piano lessons, and the teacher go, you're no good at taking piano. You'll never learn anything. Why don't you just quit? Oh, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Sykes, you've wasted all this money on your kid. And I didn't remember it. I just knew that I hated drawing after that. I would start to draw stuff or I'd doodle and I'd get frustrated and I'd tear it up, I'd throw it away, I'd never drew again. Learned to play the piano, I'd get frustrated, I'd stop, I'd never want to do it again. And I didn't know why. And now I do. Okay. Here's the point. It doesn't matter. All I think that did for me is make me want to be a better learner later on in life. The reason I don't know that, but I've just said my idea with curiosity and fascination and the ability to learn and to grow and to develop was all things that apparently I was thwarted. All right. So the thing is it's never too late. The past is the past. It doesn't make it who you are now. It's somebody else. I'm not that child anymore. I'm this adult. Now I can carry that story around and let it affect me, or I can go, you know what? Thank goodness that happened because I learned to do other things as a result. Because what I wanted to do was to speak and to teach and to share and to do the things. That's the life I went into. I might not have ever done that, but I sat down and enjoyed drawing or math or something else. I'm not trying to make a judgment or say one thing or not. I'm just saying everything is a blessing. Everything is a blessing. And that's one of the most important things that we can learn.
I love it.
I agree.
But don't just learn it as an answer. Celebrate it every moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very, very
well, the thing is,
isn't it?
Rex just said something that this, I mean, thinking too. I, as people know, I'm a relationship coach and written a book and everything else. I keep saying this many, many times. The reason why I do this work is because I've made so many mistakes. And the truth is that I learned from those mistakes. So I was curious about what I did wrong, so I did better next time. And what that became for me was how I teach other people. So some of the best coaches, as far as I'm concerned, some of the best experts, and people have made lots of mistakes and decided to learn new things. So the thing for me is about those people who are in high demand, who really know what they're talking about, are the ones that did get curious about what they did wrong, how they could do better, what they were doing, rather than judging themselves saying, I'm never going to, it's like what they say, the definition of a successful walker is someone who gets up one more time, then they fall down. When babies walk the first time they fall down, they don't go, damn it, I'm never going to walk again, and they stay on their butts the whole time. No. But it's true for life in general. We forget that we can always try something different and learn and be curious and learn new things. So if you want to become an expert, learn from the mistakes by being curious about what you didn't do the way you thought you would. because most of us don't do things perfectly the first time, if ever.
I love that. I love that. You know, rarely have I been really completely enthralled in anybody whose life story starts with, I've made every right choice and I've done every right thing since the day I was born. I've rarely been enthralled by that. And luckily, because of the life that I'm in and the work that I do, I'm exposed constantly to people who have taken the wrong path, who have spent.
Got chilies here, but that's funny. That sucks. What now?
But I'm exposed to people who have chosen the wrong path and who have spent time in prison and who looked like they were at the very end and there was no redemption, and then they found that redemption, and they started opening their minds up to doing different things and trying new things and watch the expanse, the things happen in the world open up for them. And then I listen to their stories and I'm shedding tears and I'm feeling it, and you know, Rex is absolutely right. Everything's a blessing. Everything lends itself to where we are now, you know. But in this moment now, are we doing the best we can? I think we need to ask ourselves, am I extending myself? Am I opening myself up? Turns out tomorrow I'm going to figure out yesterday I could have done that different. And then today I might do it different. But it's not about sitting and being critical or judgmental, even about myself either. It's about just saying, you know what? If I was supposed to see it then, I would have seen it then. But I saw it now. Let me celebrate that I saw it now. Let me celebrate that now I can be curious and be different. Christmas morning is the greatest thing in the world. You know, you want to talk about being curious and joy. When you have kids, Christmas morning is the greatest thing. It's not about the gift. It's about that moment when you hand that child a gift and they start tearing into it. And there's that moment of wonderment and excitement and joy. Then they found out it sucks and they get all pissed off. But for that moment, that's like the essence of being alive. And I think we sometimes, as people, leave that by the side and lose the importance of that. I wish everybody could hold a little bit of that in their hearts and approach every day with that kind of wonderment. Like, what's today going to bring? How wonderful can it be? Maybe you're just going to get a box of socks. We don't know.
But they're wrapped up socks. They're socks.
But they're wrapped up. They're wrapped up.
It makes them amazing.
They don't
as long as my grandmother wasn't in the room ruining it by saying, "Don't tear the paper when you take it off."
Can I share something? I know we're wrapping up. Can I share something? I want to share something that not many people will share about Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. You know, everybody thinks it's about growing rich and it's got all this stuff and these heavy kind of principles and, you know, you have a white hot obsession and a definite chief aim and a passion and you stick with it and commit and burn your bridges and do all the stuff. Well, he talks about transmuting sex energy, and he goes, love, faith, and sex are the three most positive, powerful emotions. But between love, success, and thinking grow rich, he talks about having a pleasing personality. And says one of the most important ingredients that you have and can have is enthusiasm. That one of the things that makes life and you get rich faster is if you're enthused, because you are vibing high when you're enthused, when you're delighted, when you're expressing yourself, you know, you raise your vibration. And everybody takes it as a serious book, and these serious books on making money and being successful and getting your mindset, which it is. It's also deeply spiritual and deeply delightful when you understand that. I mean, and he may not have exemplified it that much either, but the point is you have to have fun in life. You have to enjoy life. If you look at what he's saying about raising your vibration, the best feelings are love and joy and sex and enthusiasm, those things that are making you. So you want to go, instead of going, oh, I have to make money. If you go, wow, I have an opportunity to make money, you know, wow, this is going to be fun. How much fun can I make it? You know, I'm curious about what I'm going to do first or second or third or how I'm going to accomplish. If you do it from an attitude of enthusiasm, everything just is a little bit better.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with you. Lacking enthusiasm, being bereft of enthusiasm, that only gets you one thing. It's called being Scott's first wife. All right. So, Lynn, why don't you close it out for us?
Oh, my gosh.
Just, you know, be curious. But remember, you don't have to wait for tomorrow. You don't have to wait a half an hour from now. You can change everything this instant, like right now. You know, those diets for Monday, those things for next month, those things for next year. They don't start unless you start right now. Nothing starts without the mind and the thoughts right now. And I mean, definitely, like they say, Rome wasn't made in a day. So anyhow, I love and appreciate every one of you. Paul, I don't know if you'll come back, but we hope you do. I think you'll be a great addition.
Didn't I impress upon you that I'm obsessively curious?
Oh, I think you'll fit in here with the rest of the crew. Again, love, appreciate you guys. And like Scott says, until something else exciting happens on CBS on Tuesdays, I guess we'll all
we're right here.
Yeah.
We love all y'all.
All right, you guys. Have a good one. And we hope to see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
God bless.
God bless.
Keeping me safe and sound.